Hello, this is going to be my attempt at a music guide for MapleStory2. First, I just want to start by opening up this guide to music. I'm going to go over a few things in here. So first, basic music notes here. You get the A through whatever. This page I'm not going to really go over. That's really just music kind of thing. We'll note on these numbers here. This is the length of the notes. So we'll need to do that later. First thing, tempo. Tempo is very important. So each track has to have a tempo. The program we're going to get into later, it does not put the tempo into every track. We need to do that manually. So slowest you can go is 32, fastest is 255, and higher means faster. Octave settings, we won't really need to mess with this. It's just how high and low the notes are. Intensity settings, this is labeled as velocity in the program we'll be using. Basically, I think of this as volume. So 15 is going to be loud, 0 is going to be, you won't hear it at all. Default note length, this is going to be how long each note is by default. If you go back a page, this is going to be setting a default for this. So if a note does not have a number next to it, it's going to be whatever this sets the default to. Sustain, I've never used it, so I don't even know what it does. I'm not really a music person. I just learned this all by trial and error. Next is going to be tie. This is going to be very important, especially if your song changes tempo in between, like in the middle of the song. We'll have to edit notes and rests, and you'll really need to use the tie. Next page, performance speed. This is not tempo. This entire page is all about the animations of your character itself. So actually I want to skip down to motions. So this is like the actual animations of your character itself. So 0 is standing still and you get different motions. This is different for each instrument as it lists. And performance speed, this is how fast your character performs that motion. So 32 is slow and 255 is fast. So that's basically a quick overview of everything here. You won't really need to know much other than that. So let me open up the program we'll be using. We'll be using 3ML. Here it is. This is it. So I got a MIDI here that we're going to use, and we're going to be using MIDIs. I didn't mention that, but you'll need a MIDI of the song you want to be making into MapleStory2. And we'll just go to File, Import Standard MIDI file. Wow, I can't speak. And the one I want to show you, because it has a lot of good things to show. It has a tempo change in the middle of the song, which is like the hardest part for editing a song. You don't really have to edit much except for tempo. So this song has it, so it's gonna be a great one to show. Settings are very important. Usually you can leave all these checked. This won't really matter. Again, velocity, it's labeled as intensity in MapleStory2, but really just think of it as volume. And if you don't have this checked, everything is going to be a default volume. So if your song goes quiet at times or louder at times, this will not pick it up if you do not have it checked. And usually you're okay with leaving it checked. Some songs like to use volume changes a lot. Sometimes you'll have like a note that's at a volume of 9 and then next in a volume of 8, and it just like keeps going back and forth. The volume isn't that big of a change, so you can just pretty much omit it at that point. So you might want to uncheck that if your song uses a lot of different characters, because there are character limit lengths for songs. So that's velocity. All the rest you can really just pretty much ignore. Under miscellaneous, do not have reduce rest checked. Do not do that. But we do want convert one MIDI track into multiple MML tracks. We do want that. If we don't, it's not going to sound right. And bring all non-note events into one track. It doesn't really matter if you have that checked or not, but just leave it checked. It's fine. Quantization settings. 32 is usually good. Sometimes if you want if it doesn't sound quite right, you might want to go to 64. If you're using a lot of notes, you might be able to lower it down. You might be able to save a few characters that way, but it might not sound as great. Sometimes you make like a quantization error. If you get that, you definitely need to change it because it will not sound right. And so we're using this setting right here, convert one MIDI track into multiple ML tracks. That means we could only have one of these checked at a time. Sometimes a MIDI will only have 2. Sometimes it could have 1. Sometimes it could have like 15. So you have to do one at a time. So if your MIDI has a lot of tracks, have fun. So let's open up the first one here. So this is what we're presented with. We got the measure markers here and the actual notes itself here. And so I want to first say T is tempo. It's going to be at the beginning of every track. Actually, it's not going to be at the beginning of every track. We need to add it to the beginning of every track. So usually it's just going to be the first track that has it. That's going to be 60. That's going to be, I think default is 120. So that's going to be half of default. So we definitely need to change it. So we're just going to add that in onto every single track, every single one. Except for this one, actually, because if you look here, this does not have any notes. Y is not a note, and this is nothing. This is not going to make a difference. So we can remove that. And sometimes you also have just like a entire track of nothing but rests, which is R, usually followed by a number, sometimes not. You can completely remove that track as well. But if you do see, sometimes you get a track that looks like nothing but rests and rests again, but with a little bit in between, you will need to keep those. But if it has all rests, just get rid of it. It's useless. But since we did have 2 tracks, I want to open up 2 3MLs. I'm going to put them side by side here. We're going to import the second track again. We're going to MIDI again, but the second track. And see, this one does not have any tempo in it. We need to add it at the very beginning. Let's see, this one did not have that useless track we saw in the first one. So next, I want to move everything into the single 3ML we opened up in the first place. So I'm just going to Control A, C to copy everything, go back to our original one here, and just paste it in. We do that for every single track. And then we can remove this one. Close it. Doesn't matter. Don't need to save it. So now we have the entire song into 3ML. Let's just play it just so we can hear it here. All right, sounds fine. All right. So first thing I noticed, tempo change right here. There's 3 of them. It changes to 120, changes to 60, and changes to 60 again. I don't know why it changes to 60 again when it's already at 60. Delete it. It's already at 60. We don't need to change it to 60. It's doing nothing. Delete it. So next, we want to note the timestamp of the MIDI or the tempo changes right here. And to simply get that, I'm just going to open up a quick snipping tool. Snip the time. I'm going to move that over to my second monitor. You won't see it, but I'll have it here. All right, so actually I want to show you here. If you do not have any tempo changes in any of your tracks, you'd be able to just optimize all of your tracks by going right here. And then you have like your characters numbers here. Then you can basically just copy paste that straight into MapleStory. It'll be fine. But since we do have the tempo changes, we have some editing to do. I'm going to copy this T120 120. And now we need to figure out, if we look here, it changes at measure 21 at 168. So that means we have to find that on every single track and change it. Okay, so here's measure 21. Let's just paste that in somewhere just to see where it's changing. Okay, so we see here, it's a little too early. Undo that. Let's put it behind another note. That's still too early. And then we have a rest of 1. That's going to be definitely too late. So that means we have to change this rest. The easiest way I know how to do this is change this rest to a 16th note, but then it's originally a 1, so we need to add 16. That needs to add up to a 1. So I guess I didn't go over this very well, but each note has a length. The length is the number after the note, and that includes rests as well. They have the length. And so a 1 is 1, a 2 is 2. So 4 fours is going to equal a 1. It's a whole note. So 16 is going to be 16. We need to add 16 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right. So now we have the entire rest 1, but now in 16th notes. Now we want to put in that tempo of 120 and see where it's at. Okay, that is interesting. And now it's too late. So 16th notes was not enough. It's too big of a unit still. So we're going to change this to 32. We add in another 32 to make it equal to that 16th we replaced. So let's add this here. All right, now we have it at the correct timestamp. That's good. Now, if we look back here at the time, it's going to be exactly 1 measure afterwards. So this makes it quite easy. We just need to add a, actually I'm going to do this here. I'm going to I'm going to cut that and paste it here. And since it's all rests, it's not going to make any difference. And I can put the 60 here after that 1 rest, and it's going to be at the correct time. Now, really pay attention to that. It has to be at the correct timestamp here. All right, so we also added a whole bunch of notes here that we don't need. So let's simplify this. If we highlight 16 4 times, what does 16 equal 4 when you have 4 of them? So let's just simplify that. We only have 3 of them. So that simplifies down to an 8, 2 4s. That can simplify into a 2. That's pretty good there. So now the second track has the correct tempo in the correct spots. Now that tempo change will affect all tracks. Third track is going to be the same exact thing. Let's try this tempo 120. It's again too early. So we can probably take this one here. It's probably going to be the exact same issue. And now it's at the correct timestamps. We're good. And it does start at the correct time. You might want to look at this as a reference here. If we undo, we need to make sure that the track we're on is blue. Here's the starting point of there. If we change the notes, we want to make sure that it still continues the notes on the same place. So pasting that in, it's still starting at the right time. We're good. If we didn't, like if we forgot this 8th note here, we notice, oh, it's a little off there. We need to add in that 8th note. And so we basically need to do that for every single track here. Let's add in, if I can type, 120. It's too late. Now it's too early. So that means we need to change this. Let's change it in 16th notes just because that's a good measure to have. All right, we have 16 notes here. Let's add in the tempo. Too early. It's too late. Too early. I think this is where I was before. Yeah, too late. So we need to change the 16 into a 32 again. We need to add an extra 32 because 2 32s equals a 16. And let's put this between these 32s. And it's at the correct timestamp. Perfect. Now, again, I'm going to do this little trick here. We can remove that. Add in a rest of 1 since they are exactly 1 measure apart. Do tempo changes. Add in the new tempo again. And it's at the right timestamp. Now basically we just have to do this for every single track. Let me see if I can find a note here where it's actually doing an actual note and not just rest. That'd be much better for us to actually take a look at. There's a look at that. That one's pretty easy. I'm just going to throw that in there. Now it's at the correct timestamp, so I don't even have to edit anything. Alright, this one definitely has what we're looking for. Alright, so let's add in the tempo and see what timestamp it is at. That is way too late. So let's add it before this A note, and it is too early. That means we have to edit this A note. Now, when you're editing notes, it's different than editing rests. You have to add in that tie, like we talked at the beginning. So, I'm going to change this whole A note into a 16th note. I'm going to make 16 of them. Alright, so tie makes one or multiple notes sound as one. So all these 16th notes, it's going to sound exactly the same as a whole note. So let's add in, see if we can find out where we need to put this tempo change. That's too late. Alright, so I think we might have to add a 30-second note in here. What did I do? Okay, that's perfect. I think that's still good. Alright, so what was the next note after this? An 8th note? If we add in a note there, a whole note, it's obviously going to change the length of the note there, but it's going to give us easy, straight to the next measure we need. So we need to get rid of all this extra we created. And just by looking at this in my experience, so we had a whole note, which we divided into a 16th note right here, and then a whole bunch of 16th notes afterwards. So if I get rid of all of this, we've basically made a 16th note out of nowhere. But we have an 8th note here. If we change that into a 16th note, it's going to be exactly what we need, because that 8, we're basically changing where it was. We're dividing it in half and putting it before that whole note and after that whole note, and we're putting the tempo in between that whole note. So that's what we need to do there. Basically, always make sure that your timestamps are correct at the tempo. And edit the notes in between. Alright, so I'm actually not going to go through this entire song because I already did this once and I'm not going to do it again. So instead, I'm just going to show you the end result. I'm not going to save that. Alright, so here is the end result. If you look at the tempo changes here, we can look at that for each track. I went in and I made sure the tempo changes were correct on every single one. And always make sure that the tempo is at the front of every single track. If you don't do that, it's going to default that track to the default tempo, which is 120. This is a tempo of 60, so it's going to be twice as fast on that track. Also, you're going to note that this looks very different. So basically, that was because of optimization. I changed all the tempos, I optimized it. If I optimize all of them, it's going to look a little bit different. Basically, all I did was I went in and deleted all these extra end lines, because those are counted as notes in MapleStory 2. Or not notes, but characters. And of course, we didn't actually change any notes in the song, so it's not going to sound any different. 3ML, it always takes the tempo of a single track. Doesn't matter which one. It's going to always change the tempo for the entire song. MapleStory2 does not do that. That's why we have to change it to match. So, next, we need to put it into MapleStory2. How are we going to do that? It's quite simple. We're just going to copy and paste it in. And I did not copy that correctly. Let me try that again. Paste it in. Now this is only the first track, so it's not going to sound right, obviously. But I do have the entire track, or the entire song already done. So I'm just going to open that up here. Basically all I did was I opened up that song that I finished, I saved it, and here it is. Actually, let's change that to piano. Sounds best to me. Sounds pretty decent, right? Now, I'm going to show you what it sounds like if we did not put that tempo in front of every single track like we needed to. I'm just going to delete that here on every single track. I might have messed up on this track. I don't see a tempo in front of here. I messed up. Did I delete too much there? Oh well. Now it's not going to sound right. Oh, but that first track is playing at double speed, while that first track is actually playing at the correct speed. Until we get later. Can't even tell what it is. Let's open it back up. And which track was that I messed up on? Maybe I just didn't scroll up correctly. Yeah, all these look fine now. Alright, so the last thing I want to talk about is volume. So, I'm sure you want to be loud and heard. So, volume. Here's one of them. A V of 12. Max is 15, lowest is 0. 0, you can't even be heard. But everyone's going to want to be at the max volume so you can be heard. What I like to do, just do Control F. And I think the max volume default in this MIDI was a volume of 10. And we can just right in 3ML, we can replace it with a V15. I'm not going to do that because I already did that on this song. But definitely make sure you find out what the maximum volume in your song is, and then you can change that to 15. And then when you can go to like 9, 14, 8, and 13. You just keep doing that all the way down. Except do not do that for 1, because we end up changing all of those that we're changing to like 10s, 11s, 12s. Now that's going to be like 41, 42, 43. It's not going to work. I didn't change anything there. So next, you put in your title, you compose it. Now I already have this song, so let's see if I can play it for you. Perfect, here it is. Actually, I think I messed up on this one. This was an earlier version of it. But it still sounds perfectly fine. So, that is the basic guide. I tried to cover as much as I could on it. If you have any questions, you can just let me know. But that's it.